Hi guys, it's Hinda and welcome to Cooking Fantasies. In today's video we're going to be making the delicious Moroccan chicken pies, which are also called Pastilla or Bastilla. It is a delicacy dish which is mainly prepared in special occasions or when we receive people, and it's really a perfect balance between sweet and salty. That's why I believe that everyone should try this dish at least once in their life. And it consists of 3 layers. The first one is of cooked chicken, a second layer of caramelized sweet onions with eggs, honey and cinnamon, and then there is a third layer of fried almonds. The whole to be wrapped in a phyllo dough and then baked till golden and crispy. And then we're gonna go through all the options how you can garnish your delicious chicken pies throughout in the video. So we're going to be needing few ingredients for each layer, but nothing too exotic. I will be telling you throughout the video what you can use, what you can substitute with, or what you can totally do without in case you don't have something in hand. And of course I will be leaving you down in the description box all the ingredients with the measurements you're going to be needing to cook this delicious pie. And we're going to start by the very first layer and cooking the chicken. And for this you're going to have to slice all the onions and dice one medium one. Then on your cooking pot on a medium heat, add the vegetable oil. I used olive oil. You can use any vegetable cooking oil you prefer, to which we're gonna add the diced onion. And then add your chicken. I prefer to wash my chicken with some vinegar or lemon juice before I use it. Some people don't like to wash their chicken. It's matter of choice, but it's really better if you rinse your chicken or soak it in some vinegar and some lemon juice for some minutes, then rinse it, tap it dry and add it to your pot. I used here both chicken thighs and chicken breast because I like the two textures in my pies. You can go for only thighs or only chicken breast if you prefer to. Chicken breasts need less time to cook, so I'm adding them in bigger pieces than the thighs. Then you're gonna dice or add minced garlic, about 3 big cloves. And then I'm going to be adding the flesh of a quarter of preserved lemon. Preserved lemons are mainly used in Moroccan cuisines, and they are basically lemons preserved in salt. They go very nice with chicken. If you don't have, you can substitute with about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice that you can add directly to your cooking pot. And because they are very salty, I'm adding only a little bit of salt. If you're not using preserved lemons, you might need to add more salt. And for the spices, it's going to be half a teaspoon of turmeric or curcuma, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, about a quarter teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and finally about half teaspoon of ground pepper. Then stir everything together. Add a bundle of fresh washed parsley to the cooking pot, close it and allow it to simmer on medium to low heat. This will allow the onions to release its water and the spices to infuse. This will take about 7 to 10 minutes. Then open the cooking pot, and here I have some saffron that I have diluted in some water. If you don't have saffron, you can totally do without. It's not necessary, but if you have it, add it because it really adds a nice color and flavor to the chicken. Then add 1 stick of cinnamon. Now go ahead and put the stove on medium to high heat, then add about 2 cups of cold water to the cooking pot. The point is to soak the whole chicken in water. Now add the sliced onions on the top of the chicken and add as much water as needed to cover them. And because we need the chicken to be thoroughly cooked, we're gonna add as much water as needed. This depends on the pot you're using, and it's gonna take about 45 to 1 hour. So now our chicken is cooking. We're going to close the cooking pot and allow it to cook. Meanwhile, we're going to be preparing the almonds. So for the almonds layer in the chicken pies, we're going to need bleached almonds. If you don't find bleached almonds, you can make them yourselves with the raw almonds. All you're going to need is soak them in hot boiling water for about 1 minute. When the minute is over, add just enough cold water to be able to touch the water without burning yourself. The point is to pick up the almonds, and you can just easily rub them between your fingers to peel them. And this is how you make bleached almonds from raw almonds. So it's quite easy and quick. You just have to wrap the almonds between your palms, and there you are. If you want to save the almond peels because they are very healthy, all the good stuff are in there, you can drain them, dry them in the oven, ground them, and you can add them to your cereals, salads. They are very healthy. And now that all my almonds are peeled, we're gonna fry them, and you can skip this by buying bleached almonds. So here I prepared the dish with some kitchen towels to absorb all the extra oil. Then I have a cooking pot in which I will be frying my almonds. So add your frying oil of choice. I have here some canola oil. You can use whatever you prefer. And then I'm going to be adding the almonds directly into the cold oil. It is very important not to wait till the oil is hot, otherwise your almonds will burn. And of course you can use less oil than I did. I just thought of putting all of them at once, then I just changed my mind. So you can go ahead and use half the quantity of oil I did. And you want to keep an eye and keep stirring because they fry really quickly. And as soon as they start turning brown, you want to turn off the heat and start removing them from the oil immediately, because they will still keep browning or turning brown even after you remove them. I love fried almonds. They taste really good. You can add them to many dishes and they will bring up so much flavor and so much texture. Just go ahead and give them a try. You will love them. And now that all the almonds are fried, we're going to allow them to cool for about 5 to 10 minutes before processing them. And to ground the almonds, use any food processor that you usually have in the kitchen, and we're gonna ground them with some powdered sugar. I have here about 600 grams almonds, and for this I'm gonna use half a cup of powdered sugar. And then you want to ground the almonds coarsely, which means you want to have still some chunks in there. Well, some people ground the almonds totally until they turn into a powder, but I like to have some chunks to give it more texture in the pie. And you don't want to ground it for a long time neither in your processor, because this will turn it into a kind of marzipan. Because of the heat, it will start releasing the oils, and you don't want to have this in your almonds. So this is how I ground my almonds. You can ground them more or less, as I said, it's up to you. Then add about 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon to your almonds. And back to the chicken. It's been about 50 minutes, so my chicken must be thoroughly cooked. You can check it. Then what you're gonna do is remove it from the cooking pot while leaving all the onions and the sauce to cook further. After removing all the chicken, remove the bundle of parsley, and you're gonna end up with this kind of onion sauce, which we will cook further until it reduces. But first we're gonna add about 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. You can add half a teaspoon of cinnamon if you don't really like it. I like the strong cinnamon taste. And then add 1 tablespoon of honey, which you can substitute with 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now allow the onions to further reduce and caramelize, and let's shred the chicken. The chicken should be dry and not have any sauce in it. If it's still hot, you can use 2 forks to shred it. If not, use just your hands. Shred all the meat and try to remove all the bones, skin, and all the little fibers that are not meat. And this is what you end up with, shredded chicken, which is very flavorful because of all the spices we cooked it in. And try to remove all the little fibers, skins, and leave only meat. Now back to our onions. They have nicely reduced. You're gonna remove the cinnamon stick that we've added earlier. You can note that it's reduced when you run your wooden spoon, the 2 lines don't meet again. So now we're gonna break 7 eggs in a separate bowl. Whisk them slightly with a fork and add them while stirring on a low heat. You don't want the eggs to cook in kind of chunks, but instead to mix really well with the onions and all the other ingredients. So keep stirring continuously until you end up with this texture, which is quite dry. So you want to get rid of all the water and all the fluids. Then remove it from the heat and let's start assembling. And finally, to wrap our chicken pies, I'm going to be using these spring roll pastries. Make sure to get the frying ones and not the rice ones. You can find them easily in any Asian shop. And here I have my ground almonds, my shredded chicken, my onions and eggs mixture, and I'm gonna also be needing about 1 cup of melted butter, and I will be using these ramekins to kind of shape my pies. You can also do without them. So as I said, these ramekins are more like a guidance to make my pies as even as possible, and also to make them all have the same size. You can use a bottle lid, you can use a dish, you can use whatever you have in the kitchen. And then I'm gonna overlay 2 sheets of pastry while generously brushing them with melted butter. So you want to first lay the first sheet, brush it with some melted butter, then lay the second sheet, and we're gonna start adding the first layer of shredded chicken. And make sure to add enough chicken to make a whole layer, about a third of a cup or half a cup depending on what molds you are using. And then add about a quarter of pastry sheets. What you want to do is maybe cut some pastry sheets into quarters and keep them on the side for between layers. Then brush it again with some melted butter and add the second layer, which is the sweet onions with the eggs. And again, you want to add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of this mixture to make a thick enough layer. Not too thick, but also not too thin to disappear after baking. And once again on this layer, add about a quarter piece of a pastry sheet or phyllo dough, whatever you call it or whatever you're using. Brush it with melted butter, and we're gonna add the last layer of the almonds, the fried and crushed almonds. Now pour 1 tablespoon of melted butter on top of the almonds before you start wrapping the pies. Make sure to fold it as tight as possible, and don't hesitate to add as much butter as needed to make it fold and stick easier. If you see that your phyllo dough or spring sheets don't stick, don't hesitate to melt 1 tablespoon of flour in about a third cup of cold water, and then use this mixture to stick your phyllo dough. It works amazing, just like an edible glue. Now easily flip the ramekins to remove the pies and then place them on a parchment paper that will go to the oven or to the freezer, depending if you need them right away or not. You can perfectly freeze your pies. Just wrap them in some plastic wrap and place them in your freezer, and then when you need them, you're just gonna take them out of the freezer and bake them right away. You don't even need to wait for them to thaw. If you're going to bake your chicken pies right away, preheat the oven to 175 degrees Celsius, that's 347 degrees Fahrenheit. Place the chicken pies onto parchment paper, brush them with more melted butter, and bake them between 30 to 35 minutes until they turn golden brown. And once out of the oven, allow them to slightly cool before decorating them with powdered sugar and cinnamon. You can also brush them with honey and decorate with fried almonds. It's totally up to you, but they are traditionally mostly decorated with powdered sugar and cinnamon, and sometimes also some fried almonds. I know that these chicken pies require many steps and it is quite time consuming, but they are totally worth it. They are very delicious. They are something very unique. It's a delicacy really, and this is why it's also not considered a everyday meal and is only prepared when you have guests over or in special occasions. So this was today's recipe and I hope you liked it. I hope you will be trying it out soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm always happy to read your comments, and see you soon with a new video, and happy baking.